Hi, welcome to Fireside Rebels. I'm Carole Ann. Today, I'm thrilled to share with you a wonderful conversation I had with author, solo traveler, fearless, badass woman, Kristy Halvorsen. Kristy is an incredible human being. Kristy left a 14-year career as a firefighter and embarked on a 7-year so far solo journey in her Airstream trailer, traveling all around the US, parts of Canada, just being open to all of the adventures that lay before her. She is absolutely fearless, and she has a coaching practice that she runs from her life on the road. She's a full-time solo nomadic traveler, and it's incredible to see the courage and just the curiosity and wonder that she approaches the world with and approaches her fellow humans and travelers that she runs into and interacts with. So I'm going to have a great conversation with her about what it was that launched her into this journey to leave firefighting, which that's a whole nother thing that she did, which is incredible, being a firefighter for that many years. And then embarking on this big journey and then writing a story about it, being able to tell that story of her journey so far and put it into this book that is really a wonderful read. I highly encourage people to read her book, Perfect Unfolding, 7 years of life-changing solo adventure, 1 year that broke me open. Kristy Halvorsen. And here is my conversation with the author, Kristy Halvorsen. I hope you enjoy. I am so excited to chat with you and just dive into how you started this journey, the Coddiwompling, the whole, I think you're an inspiration, and I know that the viewers and the listeners will love to hear just what took you on this journey. And I think a lot of people will be just super excited to read your book or listen to it. It's awesome.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here, and I'm excited to see where we go because it's kind of a mystery.
It's a total mystery. When it's me, it's a total mystery. I never know where. I'm Coddiwompling in my podcast episodes. I don't know.
There you go. You're a pro.
So I want to say too, I love the format of your book. And I was thinking like how to describe them. It seems like some of like how you've done these short little, to me, they're like appetizing snacks of prose. So it's like very, it's very journal-like. And I love how you jump sort of back and forth. You're kind of time shifting through it, which is so cool. But let's go back to, I feel like you reinvented yourself quite early on in your 20s, like going the engineering track, and then suddenly I'm going to be a firefighter.
Yes.
So do you want to just like talk just very briefly about like what kind of your mind state was and what flipped you to be like, you recognized this isn't it. It's firefighting for a number of years.
Yes. So, that was a big surprise to me. And I tell people that decision to leave engineering and going into firefighting was the best decision of my life, because that one decision, it taught me at a very young age that I can listen to my heart and not listen to logic and not listen to everybody else, because pretty much everybody but one uncle thought it was just not smart. In fact, one of the stupidest things anybody could ever do, because I was making way too much money for a 23-year-old and had a career right out of college. Most people don't, they look for years. And here I just fell right into it. But my heart wasn't in it. I really didn't like the work. And I knew it was like I had about a year left in school and university when I realized I don't think I want to do this forever. But I was too close to finishing. And then I got the job, and I just knew, like, after, I mean, I knew before I even took the job that I probably wasn't going to enjoy it. But then after working, I just remember walking around and most everybody was in cubicles and we're all playing with turbine engines on our computers. And most people just didn't look happy. And there was older people who were overweight and they had really nice cars and a boat and houses on Palm Beach Island. But then like they're sitting there, it felt like in jail all day. And I remember just looking at people walking around on my break saying, I don't want to be this when I grow up. And my heart was pulled to firefighting. And again, everybody thought I was nuts except for one uncle. And I just did it. I just said, you know what? I'm going to go. I'm going to go for this. So I took like a massive, humongous pay cut and went to this job that you only need a high school, education for, and fell in love. Like, I remember when I got my first paycheck, it was so tiny. It was minuscule. And I just remember looking at it and thinking, I can't believe they're paying me to do this. Like, I would be doing this for free.
That's amazing.
And that's when I knew I felt like I was getting paid to go to summer camp every day. And, like I loved the teamwork. I loved the fact that the only thing we're there to do was to help people. And I loved not knowing what I was going to do when I got to work every day. And it was really exciting. And I loved everything about it. And I never looked back. I always thought, I'll like do engineering on the side, but I never went back. Like that was it. I was 24 years old, left engineering and never went back.
That's incredible. I mean, so many people, I think, don't listen to that voice, right? They just think society has dictated that this is the journey one must go on, and they just get caught in it,
Yeah.
That's really great that you the one uncle at least, and then you just had such good instincts for yourself, and you obviously could listen to yourself at that age, which is it's pretty unique. I feel like we're kind of like kindred souls in a way. Like I did sort of my Coddiwompling in my 20s on a sailboat and then a converted fish boat on the coast. And so I did that for like 6 years. And I don't know that I got it out of my system because I'm super intrigued by your journey. And there's always a little voice going, ooh, an Airstream. That's always like, ooh, or a bowler trailer. Like I'm always like drawn to that as well. But I also got into a highly male dominated career after I finished my Coddiwompling. I got into construction because I just had this calling, and I was like, I wanted to be able to do stuff myself. I wanted to be able to run power tools and do all that stuff. And it was, like small paycheck and super challenging, and people sort of thinking I was nuts. But it's like great that when you can listen to that voice, as long as it serves. And in my case, similar to yours, I got a lung infection and had to transition into design and drafting and then project management and construction. But so you got quite sick after a number of years in firefighting. How many years did you do that for? And then you got quite ill.
I think I'm trying to remember. I think I started getting sick. I just didn't know what was going on around 2013.
Okay.
And it was actually because I was racing bicycles, and all of a sudden, like I remember my cycling coach was thinking I was overtraining. It just kind of came on subtly, but like something was wrong. And it took over a year to figure out what happened. And what it was is I had a really awful autoimmune disease, like a really significant autoimmune. They ended up testing me for everything, like everything from MS to cancer to a bunch of diseases, because they just couldn't figure out what was going on. It ended up being an autoimmune. And regular doctors were like, there's nothing we can do. Like, you're going to have to start getting blood tests to see if your organs might start failing. And here I am in my early 30s.
Yeah.
And thankfully, I went to Eastern medicine doctor, and it took 2 years, but I got healthy again. And I got back to not quite where I was, but definitely like normal living state, And then right when I was like just getting back on my bicycle and starting to do the things I loved after 2 years, or pretty much 3 years of being sick, but 2 years of recovering, then I tore my ACL at the fire department. And the ACL tear was the straw that broke the camel. I knew I was going to be at desk duty for 9 months to a year. And I realized my dream was when I retired, I wanted to travel. And I was 34 years old, something like that, 34, 35 years old. And I just was like, I don't know if I'll make it to retirement. And if I do, I don't know if I'll be able to hike and bike and do the things I want. So that was it. It was the biggest blessing in disguise. I never would wish health or injury on anyone, But because of that, that's when I said, I'm getting out. And it took me a couple years and I hit the road. That was it.
Amazing. And that's I feel what I've, it's different stories of people's journeys that I've read. It seems like there's a health scare or an injury or an illness or something, some big life disruption that forces you to make that decision, right? It's not just like we can't always listen to that voice. Sometimes it's like, boom. Oh,
Yes.
okay.
I totally agree because I think my heart knew to get out, and then I got sick, and I imagined like the universe was like, okay, she's sick, she's gonna get out, and then I quote beat it, and it took me 2 years, but I got better, and then the universe was like, she
Uh,
nuts, ACL, like
your journey is awaiting you over here.
I
Get out of there.
yes, I feel like that's what happened. It was just like I didn't listen, and so then so I had help, but then the knee injury was just when I was like, okay, we gotta figure something out here, so
Yeah.
yeah, so that was 2015, and then I thought it would take me 5 years to ramp up my business and be able to have an income and plan and sell a house and blah blah, and then something dramatic happened 2.5 years in, and I just hit the road a lot sooner than I thought.
Okay. Are you able to talk about the dramatic
Yeah,
thing that happened? And had you already, so you're the coaching business. So you'd already been
yeah,
putting the wheels in motion for
yeah,
transitioning into a coaching business. So maybe just take us through that little 2 year process that you thought was 5 years, but got condensed into two, and how that sort of
yeah.
jumped off.
So in 2015 too, I went back to school to be for training for coaching and mentoring. And so I had that under my belt. So after the knee injury and after I began healing from that, I started like, okay, I got to work on building this business, which I had never done before. I'd always worked for someone.
Okay.
So yeah, and that's where the 5 year plan came in. Cause I was like, I actually love this job and I know my knee's going to heal and we'll be fine for 5 more years. And so the plan was me and my boyfriend at the time, we're both going to like have remote careers and sell the house, get an Airstream and hit the road. So we thought it would take us about 5 years to gingerly take our pace and take our
Get
time.
organized. Yeah.
So but things started happening quicker. Like we didn't think we'd buy the Airstream till like year 4, and it just came along. So the Airstream was bought, the truck showed up way early too, and then Wade, my boyfriend, made a big oopsie, and he decided to drive from Florida to Kansas to get back with his ex-girlfriend.
Oh,
And from a long time before. And then let's just say he pretty much called me from Kansas and said, like, we're done. I'll come get my stuff eventually. We're living in my house. And then within a few days or a week, he called back apologizing, saying he made a mistake. And I'm like, there's mistakes. And then there's like this,
oh,
and we're done. So, but I thought, so the book begins, like you can read it on Amazon if you want to read the free little whatever, teaser version. The book begins with my mom. I called my mom saying, I don't know why I'm so sad. It'd been a month since we broke up. And I'm just like, I've never been this sad in my life. Like, help. And I thought I was heartbroken, which I was. And she said, this is more than heartbreak. You think he stole your dream because you think you can't do it by yourself.
right.
And until she said that, I didn't realize that's what I thought.
Right.
So she lovingly, like, slapped me on the butt and said, you can do this on your own. What are you thinking? You got the Airstream, you got the truck. Like, hello. And so from that conversation, it was 2 months that I sold my house, got rid of all my stuff, prepped the Airstream, resigned from my firefighting job and hit the road. It all happened in that 2 month period.
And your house sold quickly, and then you got an extension to be able to stay there, like just by
Yeah.
asking. Like,
I didn't even ask. That was the other thing is the buyers came. I was selling it by owner because I wanted to save cash and not have a realtor. And so I was dealing with the buyer, and they wanted to buy it cash, and they wanted to close in 3 days. So like on a Tuesday, they put in their offer and they're like, we need to close on Friday. And I'm like, is this even legal? Like, this is a 3 bedroom, 2 bath house with a garage. Like, it's not like
it's a
some
process.
And I had a stepsister who was a realtor. I remember I called her. I said, can you do this? And she's like, I have never heard of it, but if they don't want any
Yeah,
inspection,
that's
like,
up to them. Yeah.
like I
All
can't
right.
imagine how that you could get paperwork done in 3 days, but they did it. And I
Wow.
called them and I was like, is this a typo? And they were like, no. And I'm like, but, and he's like, listen, you can stay in the house. Cause I was about to say, I can't get my stuff out in 3 days.
Right.
And he was just like, listen, we're going back to Tennessee. We won't be back for a month. Like, stay as long as you want, rent free. Just, we trust you.
Wow.
And I was like, well, talk about like, this is meant to be. So yeah, my
Yeah.
house sold in 3 days and then I got to live in it until I was ready to leave.
Unreal. So that just really like, yeah, sort of cranks everything up into fast motion, but
Yeah.
you didn't have to move out in 3 days. You had that little bit of a window.
Yeah.
So you already had your Airstream and the truck, and so you already had the plan in place. So now you're solo, right? And I know, like, I mean, it's got to be as a woman thinking about what those first, I'm heading out in a diesel truck and dragging an Airstream behind me by myself. Like that's got to be pretty I don't know, unnerving, sort of like what am I sort of like I'm fumbling into I don't know what. Like
Yeah.
what was your mental state when you're like really like starting up the diesel engine and here I go?
I know. I remember I pulled out of the driveway and then I stopped in the road in front of the house. And I was just, I mean, it was already not my house anymore. So it wasn't like I could change my mind. I just remember I stopped and like got out and I was just like, whoa. Like, I was like maybe 20 feet away from my own driveway on the side of the road. It was, it was a little residential street. There's no traffic or anything, but I just literally got out and stood there. I was like, I cannot believe I'm pulling off with everything I own, like in the truck, in the trailer. Yeah. And I just had a little moment there on my street and just was like, wow. And then got in and drove off. And, what was fun is I had two friends that I bought an RV because of me having gotten an RV.
Oh,
Pete and we got a little tester RV, a little casita, because neither one of us had ever RV'd before. And then some friends of ours kind of fell in love with it and they bought one and they'd gone on this big like year-long journey around North America. And it just so happens they were coming home right when I was leaving. And so we met up at a campground like 3 hours away. So that was my first 2 nights was I drove three
cool.
hours. I stayed at a campground and met with these friends that were just coming back from this incredible adventure. And I was
Oh,
leaving.
cool.
So it was a nice little transition. So I had 2 days to just like get used to living in an Airstream and like take a deep breath. But honestly, after those 2 days and hanging out with them and hearing about their year-long adventure, I was so excited. Like there was no fear at all. And again, talk about again the perfect unfolding. I love that we had that first 2 nights with them. And it just made me so excited. So I had no fear at all. I just was
Wow.
ready. I was, yeah.
Well, and you were a firefighter, so I guess you have a different level of, courage and just inner strength. I mean, that whole career is like bananas to me. That's incredible that you did that. And so yeah, I feel like you're kind of on a different you're on a different scale than some of us would be heading out on our own. So that's amazing.
Yeah.
So from there, so let's talk about Coddiwompling. So
Yeah.
you named your Airstream Cod. You call it Coddy for short, but
Yeah.
Coddiwomple is
Yeah. I
the
named
full
her
name.
Coddiwomple. Yeah.
And you found that word which existed in the old English language or something.
Yeah. Yeah. It was just a slang term from the UK and nobody knows actually when or who invented it.
Oh,
But it wasn't very well known. But the rough meaning was traveling without knowing where you're going. So I saw that word. I remember like the moment I saw it. I remember it was in 2016. I could tell you exactly where I was. I just remember seeing that word saying, "Oh my gosh, this is me. This is how I want to live, and this is the name of my Airstream that I don't own yet."
oh, you didn't even own it yet.
No, I named her Coddiwomple. In fact, Wade, he was right there, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, this is what we're gonna do," and this is the name of our future Airstream. Her name's Coddiwomple, and we just have to go find her. And he was just like, "What?
Huh?
There's a Coddy, there's an
It's a
Airstream,
what? What?
and her name's what are
What?
you?" And
Do
I
you
was
have
just
a
like,
brain
"No, I
tumor?
just know there's an Airstream out there, and I'm like, we just have to look for her, but we'll know it when we find her. Her name's Coddiwomple." And
That's
he was
awesome.
just, "You're named it Coddiwomple?" I'm like, "Yeah." No, and it was funny because we went looking at Airstreams and every Airstream I was like, "Oh, is this Coddiwomple?" And I would be like, "No, this isn't her." Like
This
I would
isn't
just
her.
know, like, no, it's not her. No. So I just knew it was Coddy when I found her. And
And
yeah, I
with
thought,
yeah, tell me about when you found her. Like, what was that? Just like la, like the sky opened up. Like what?
well, this is one story that most people don't know. My friends know it, but there was a lot of stuff that got cut from the book, or else it had been like an encyclopedia.
Right.
So Wade and I were looking for an Airstream when we didn't know anything about Airstream. So I had a friend that had an Airstream, and he and his wife full-timed. And so they were helping us. They were like, we would send them pictures and, sales listings of Airstreams, and we were trying to find the perfect one. And then I just suddenly knew that they were living in Coddiwomple.
Oh.
But it was really awkward because it was their house. And I'd never
Oh my
actually
God.
seen her. I'd never actually physically touched Coddiwomple, but I'd seen her on Zoom, and I knew my friends pretty well, and I knew they'd take care of her. And I learned all about. I asked questions, and I learned all about Coddiwomple. And then I told Wade, and I was like, "It's strange, but I know that they're living in Coddiwomple." And he's like, "Stop
What?
playing around. Like, you can't. That's their house because they were full time." I was like, "I know. I don't want to tell them, but eventually they'll want to sell." And it was funny because I was like, we're just going to keep this to ourselves and wait until whenever. So the husband one day called me. He said, I haven't got anything from you about Airstreams lately. Like, are you still looking? And I was like, no. And he's like,
Oh,
did you find one? I'm like, yeah.
yes.
And then he was like, well, tell me about it. And I was like, oh my gosh, how do you tell someone this? And I said, well, you're kind of living in it. And they were just flabbergasted. They're like, what are you smoking? Like, ours isn't for sale. And I'm like, I know, but we're patient. So take your time. But when you're ready, we'll buy. And they were just like, okay, really awkward.
Oh.
And, but it was funny because like 3 months later, I get a text and it was like, are you serious? You want to buy our Airstream? And I was like, serious? This is a heart attack. And he said, it needs some work, but you actually, because you said that,
Yeah.
the wife suddenly was like, what if we get a new one and sell them the old one? And there I had Coddiwomple.
Yep. Like you put it out in the universe and you put it out loud out of your mouth. It was like,
But it was a little awkward for a stint, because how do you tell someone that their house is your future home? Like,
yeah.
strange.
That is a bit awkward, but I mean, like you don't get what you want unless you verbalize it, think about it, put it out there, right? So you literally, that is awesome. You literally told them you're in my oh, that's amazing.
You're living in my house.
You're living in my house. That is so funny. So yeah, it looks like incredible from the pictures and just like looking at the background there. Like it looks like just the ideal traveling home. Like it just looks like the perfect size, the perfect downsizing of, but you've got everything you need. And, reading about how you organize your, it just sounds like heaven.
Yeah, it really is. I joke around that it's like it's the size of a New York apartment, and I can park anywhere I want, and I often live in, I live off grid. Most people don't realize that, but I outfitted it with solar, and it's got everything you need to just go off grid and not really need anything, but I need to find water about every 3 weeks. Other than that, I don't need to plug in. I have a composting.
You have a bit of propane, I think, for the fridge.
Yes. So I have so in the summer, I can go about 2 months between propane fill-ups, and
awesome.
Then water's about every 3 weeks. So that's my two consumables other than food. But I just go out in the bush, and my favorite summer home is Canada. So I've seen most of Canada, and honestly, I love Canada. I wish I could live there. I just don't know if I'd make it through a winter. But I live out.
It's not that cold. It's not that cold in BC. It's like Seattle, but not as rainy.
Yeah. But yeah, so I just live in Crown Land, or I live in national forest in the US, and the views half the time are just out of this world, and I just say I'm living in a house I love with $1 million views, and most of it's for free. It's just too good to be true.
It's incredible. And like, it's so inspirational for you to be doing this and then journaling about it and then publishing the book about it. And I think it's going to be so inspiring to a lot of people. Like you just published it in January. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love that. I noticed you're doing a bunch of different podcasts and talking about it. It's incredible. I think it's just going to inspire so many people. I have so many things, like you're so many things that you reflect on in the book, and just the way that you frame things, like you calling your intuitions your soul's tickles, like that's really, yeah. Like, does it feel a bit like a tickle when you get kind of that nudge? Is it always the positive intuition that feels like a tickle? What does the negative, because you talk about like having that, don't go down that road,
Yeah.
don't go into that campsite, turn around. And I get chills when I think, because I'm similar, like I'll get a big heavy feeling and be like, don't turn around, don't drive in there. Like,
Yeah.
so is the positives the tickles, and the negatives or maybe something else?
You know what in the beginning, I was thinking, there's like, there's different feelings. And then there's like following your thinking versus your tickles. But, I just came up with the saying because it truly feels like a soul tickle.
It does.
And I realized through my journeys that they're all tickles of my soul. They just feel different. So some tickles feel like, like a loving nudge, and some tickles feel like they should have the background music of a mystery or a thriller, like, like the Jaws music in the background. It's still a tickle. It just is like, whoa, I should probably listen to that. So they're all tickles of the soul, but there's many different flavors of those tickles. But that's the biggest thing I've learned on this journey. It's the same lesson from when I left engineering and go to firefighting. And then when I left firefighting to do this, those were all tickles of my soul. I didn't come up with that wording to maybe 5 or 6 years ago, but it's just that knowing that you can't talk yourself out of, and you don't even know where it comes from. Like there's no logic behind it. You can make up logic. You can be like, oh yeah, but honestly, you're just making up stuff.
Yeah.
The truth is your soul's been tickled and you can't explain it. You just say yes.
Yeah. And that's amazing that you do say yes. Like, I think so many people, and I want to say, being a woman, I think a lot of women don't say yes because of sort of the implicit bias that we have, and the history and the societal brainwashing. Like there's a lot of things we wouldn't do. And I appreciated you like kind of questioning yourself at one point where you were like, is this just a bias I have about a single man coming and knocking on my door 3 times in one day and giving me fish or whatever? It's like, or is it just, he's just a friendly guy. And so you have to listen to whether it's a tickle or maybe it is your mind going, like you do have to listen to that as a woman, because obviously, like, as strong as we can be physically, a lot of men could just easily overpower us, right? And you haven't had any problems like that, really? Like,
no, and that's why I wanted to make sure and put that story in the book with the Newfoundland guy that gave me fish, and I saw him 3 times. And that 3rd time, and again, I couldn't go into all the detail or the book would be too long. Right. But that guy, like, he gave me the proper willies. It was pouring down rain the 3rd time when he knocked on my door, and I opened my door, and then the nice me, like, I don't want to get wet. And so I invited him in, and then I was like, I can't believe I just invited this guy in. So we're standing right at the front door, Coddy. And I was just like, oh my gosh, big mistake. Like, really, like my spidey sense was just like, I can't imagine, like, why you just invited a strange man into your home, and there's no getting rid of him. I was in the middle of nowhere by myself.
Oh God. And you're like, I was trying to be nice, right? You're like, cause I didn't want to offend him.
Yeah. Right. Cause I could have just said, not answered the door. Yeah. But I mean, yeah. And I don't know why, cause that was a really stupid thing to invite him in, but that's not in the book. But I literally was like, open the door. He came in, and I was just standing there like, how do I get him to leave? How do I get him to leave? Cause my spidey sense was like, something's not really off. And he just gave me all this fish. I had asked him earlier. I mean, if you haven't read the book, I saw him 2 other times that day, and I asked him about fishing. But the 3rd time, I didn't tell him where I was camping.
Oh yeah, you mentioned that, yeah.
And he found me out on this lake, but I mean, it's a small area. He knew I was going fishing. He probably had a good idea, but he found me, and in my mind, I was like,
why did he find me? Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, whoa, I'm about to get raped or who knows what. But actually, and that's what I wrote about in the book, like, my spidey sense was on high alert. I thanked him for the fish, and like, shoot him out the door, and he left. And as soon as he went peacefully, I was like, oh,
Oh, why
he was
did you
just
do
a
that?
nice guy, you know. Like some woman asks where to fish, and he's like, well, better, I'll bring her some fish, you know. So, but yeah, I reflect on how most men don't understand. Like
No.
that guy was totally innocent. He was just being kind and neighborly and
Yeah.
inviting me to have some
Yeah.
lovely fish that he had just
Yeah.
caught. But I don't think a lot of men realize how on guard we have to be. Like he
No.
probably didn't even think about what it might feel like as a female to have some strange guy show up 3 times in one day, you
No.
know?
They wouldn't. Like yeah, I don't think any men would. And that
Yeah.
was in Labrador, was that
That
was
was in that was in Labrador and Goose Bay.
and it's like so for people who live in Labrador and don't experience the world the way that we do in
Yeah.
cities and right? Like no idea. Like here I'm
Yeah.
bringing you fish. Like what's
Like
your
really
deal?
nice guy.
Yeah, like probably never he probably doesn't have a violent or ever like
No.
it's not at all even in his vocabulary. So it wouldn't cross their minds to be like, oh, I shouldn't come in here, I'll just give
Yeah.
you the fish. Like, but
Yeah.
it's yeah, I just appreciated you kind of commenting on that because I think women reading the book, you know, will I hope a lot of women do read the book with a curiosity and an openness to sort of thinking about themselves, maybe not taking the exact same kind of challenge, but something in a little like even just a like I prefer solo travel and I have jetted off to Europe several times by myself and just like I love just not having to worry about anybody else where I'm going to go eat where I want to eat. I'm going to go to the museums I want to go see and such. But it's like, so even something like that, I know some of my women friends wouldn't even think about doing that. They'd be like trying to get their other women friends or their husband or whoever to go with them. And it's like,
Yeah.
it's pretty great being yourself and the people you meet, which is like what I love too. You just like expanding on all these little relationships that you make along the way that might be short, but they're very meaningful in that time. And so you would never have met these people and encountered these souls and had these experiences if you hadn't done this journey and you
Yeah.
hadn't been like, yes, I'm going to talk to this random couple and they're going to take me fishing or like because I feel like I have been guilty a lot of times of being like keeping to myself and oh I don't want to talk to somebody else. And I find when I do talk to somebody new, what an amazing connection can happen and stories unfold. And you know,
Yeah.
next thing you know, you're in an absinthe bar drinking absinthe with some stranger, which is another
Yeah.
story. But yeah, I love that. And are any of the what like I know you can't really compare, but are any of those kind of like your favorite or your kind of I don't know most that you think back on those little connections and those or unusual connections?
Yeah, I mean, there. Well, you know, when I started writing the book, I thought it was about all the people because that's one of the things I feel like is so special. I mean, I've always been like fine with talking to people, like strangers most of the time, but not deeply connecting like this. And I feel like, um, you know, in the way I've learned to live in this just wandering and being in nature and really like a slow paced lifestyle.
Yeah.
When I meet people, the connections just go so deep so fast because I'm not in a hurry. I'm not thinking of what I need to be doing or
Right. No
trying to rush
schedule.
around.
Yeah.
So naturally, without even trying, I just have these deep connections with people. And you know, one that happened years ago, it was early on. I think it was in probably 19 or 20. I was on a hike in Virginia and there was no one. It was kind of fall and after fall, so it wasn't like a beautiful time to be out there. And I was on a really long hike, like 7, 8 mile hike. And I don't know, a couple hours in, I see two guys coming the opposite direction. Like it was a big loop. But, you know, I'm not scared of them at all. It's weird because I don't get any fear. Like I'm smart, but I don't have any fear. So I saw two guys. I'm like, cool, I haven't seen anybody in hours. And so we just chatted on this trail. And within a few minutes, like both of them were crying like about life. Like we just dropped into this beautiful, deep conversation about life. And one of them was, I forget if he had marital problems or something, but Like it was almost like they were on a bros weekend, and then we had this conversation, and the one guy having a hard time started crying, and then his friend started crying, and I'm out in the middle of nowhere on this trail, hours from civilization, with these two men. And it was just such a special, like I'm getting goosebumps right now because I just remember this special feeling we shared. And we probably only spent 15, maybe 20 minutes talking. And
Wow.
then it was one of those times where we say our goodbyes and we head on our opposite directions. And I was thinking, I wanted to like exchange numbers or email or something.
Never gonna see you again.
Yeah. But it was like the connection was so pure. Like I felt like even making the offer would have tainted it. And it was just
Yeah.
like, we shared that moment and we went on, and who knows, maybe they've told friends about that experience, and like I am telling people, and I don't know their names, I don't know from anybody, but it was such a beautiful human connection
Yeah.
and in such a short period of time. And it was just like, and that was probably the deepest and quickest I'd ever done that. And that's why that one stands out, because I was like, that is incredible, you know.
Do
So
you
yeah.
think your, training and then work as a coach and what you do there, do you think that informs you, like how you show up and how you just present as so open to people? Do you think or like, is this experience of this journey maybe the thing that's made you so open and trusting and just connect with people quicker?
Yeah. My best theory is it's a little of both. Like, um, once I had my training, my coach training, like even at the fire department, because I still worked at the fire department another 2.5 years after having that and starting that business, and really kind of perfecting that. And I noticed how interactions with my employees, because I was a station officer, so interactions with my guys and interactions with people we'd meet in the field changed because of,
Okay.
like, I started understanding better how our minds work and like how to connect with people, and like ask them questions. A lot of times, especially, people can be belligerent a lot of times when we show up on scene. Like a lot of people didn't call
Right.
911 and they don't want us there, but whether
Right.
they're whatever they've got going on. and
Yeah.
and and so all that just changed after I learned more about the human's mind and how to talk to people and connect. So things had already been going to change, but the journey, the best I can describe it is it's as if I went on a walkabout like the Aboriginals do. Like I didn't
Yeah.
know I was going on one, but the journey changed me. So
Yeah.
I don't think Kristy as a firefighter would have had that connection in the forest with those two men like I did. I probably would have said hello. I don't think it would have gone the way it did, as deep as we did.
Okay.
But I think it was a combination because too, how I am not only in my personal life but in my work, like my coaching and mentoring has completely changed because of this walkabout, like spiritual awakening experience I've had while on this journey. So it's definitely a combination because I wasn't as open, and I didn't see life at all the way I do now back in 2017 before I went on this journey.
Well, you're sort of reflecting on all of the experiences you have. I appreciate it so much. I appreciate your how you talk about all that you're learning, especially around Indigenous history. And when you're in Labrador and you're learning about the Inuit and what has gone on and talking about colonization, you do it in such a sort of easy to digest way. Like it's not hitting anybody over the head. It's
Uh,
you, you get sort of pulled into your story, into this journey, and you are really coming out in the story. You're really coming across in your words, and so you feel like you're getting to know you, and then you're informing as you're learning about things on the journey, and it's just done in such a beautiful way. Like I want all of the people to read this book and learn to be more curious about that experience of the Indigenous people and the Inuit, and just be able to think like you did, how you just, I didn't know this, and who would have known that this happened and how they survive. Oh, it's very beautifully written in that way. I really appreciate that.
well, thank you. And I have to give credit because I was only with the Inuit people for less than a week. But again, it was the connection thing happened there too with several different people.
Yeah.
But I left and I learned some of the history while I was there.
Yeah.
But I left like with even more questions,
Yeah.
But it was 6 months later before I even thought that this was worthy of writing a book about. So, the experiences in Labrador in July, and then in December when I was like, oh my gosh, like this, I have to write a book about all this.
Yeah.
So the first thing I did was reach out to one of the father of a family I'd met on the ferry, Perry Dyson, because I made Facebook friends with a lot of people from up there. So I wrote to Perry Dyson and I was like, hey, like, could I ask you questions? I need help. And plus I'm going to write stuff, but I know I'm not getting it right. And I don't want to be some white girl trying to write about Inuit culture. I want to have your voice. I want to.
Yeah.
And so it was interesting because even Perry was like, I'm not your guy, but I know who is, like, and so he sent me to one of his friends. And so, and then from there, I got connected to other elders. So there was 3 different elders that helped me word this book, both in audio form and in written form, in a way that was respectful and honoring of their history, their knowledge, and their culture, So there's a lot of back and forth. And I was so grateful. I learned so much through that process. And it wasn't until the audiobook that I realized I don't know how to even say this. And so I reached out again and was like, who can I talk to that can teach me how to speak Inuktitut? Because I had these words. And then, so I got hooked up with Christine, who's like a language expert in Inuktitut. And so she helped me. And there was plenty of times I was doing the audiobook and I would just record it. And I'm like, I know this is wrong. Can you help? So I have to give credit to so many of the Inuit elders that really helped this book be what it is,
That is so beautiful. And that makes so much sense now that I'm like, obviously when you're on, because the journey, you've written it in such a good way that like those little snacks of of prose and journey, you jump sort of back and forth through there, but it's like July 17th. And then it's like, and then it's like July 17th again. And it's sort of like how time does stand still. And I feel like when you're on Coddiwompling or, sort of in that wander mindset, I find anyway that days seem to stretch out like when you're not on a schedule and you're not having to be somewhere. So I loved that because it's like, oh, we're still on July 17th. We're still on July 17th. Oh, now we're only on July 18th. And seems like you're experiencing so much in those few days. So you saying it was only a week, it's like, oh, right. I guess it was only a week, but it seems like so much more expansive than a week in time. It's like it's wild.
It is. And, and that's why I tell people, I'm like, almost half the book is Newfoundland and Labrador, but those 2 places, time just stretched, like the book is a year long and it's not quite half, but it's close. Because so much happened in Labrador and Newfoundland that I wanted to get to honor that, and then there was other times where literally months went by and nothing happened. There's no reason to write about it,
Right. Right. That makes total sense.
Yeah.
Well, that's really awesome. And that's awesome that you got in touch with some elders and some, experts, and that just makes total sense now, because I was kind of like, I was listening to the audiobook and going, wow, like you're so good at the narration. Like that's not easy for everyone to narrate their own book or anyone's book. And it didn't even occur to me, like you're getting all the pronunciations probably pretty good. I didn't even think about that. So that's incredible. Did you record yourself in your Airstream, or did you go to a studio?
Oh.
You went to studio?
No, so my mom was under the weather. And so I was with her during the time, like I had written the book and it was all edited because you can't start the audiobook until everything is perfect in the paperback. And so that period of time I was the caregiving for my mom, and she lives in the country. And so it just wasn't feasible to go to a studio. So I actually made my own studio in the back of her house.
Cool.
I used a beach umbrella and a bunch of moving blankets. I Googled how can you make a studio? So I was really hot and sweaty under that umbrella in the middle of summer in Florida, but I made it through.
That's awesome. It sounds so good.
Yeah. And nobody will know, but it was nice because I could go at my own pace, So it took probably a month to do the whole thing, but I just would go to the back of my mom's house and record it.
Okay,
So
that's awesome. I'm inspired because I also have an audiobook I have not recorded yet because I made a room in my other and I like it's too hot in here.
it is
Haven't
hot.
done it yet.
The secret was is I would get a mason jar of ice and water and go. I recorded just between me and you and whoever's listening, butt naked because it was
Oh
so hot. Because you can't run fans because the fans will
no,
make a
because it
noise.
makes a noise.
So I was like, it was like I would prepare. I'd like down a bunch of water and like just sit there and sweat in my nakedness while I was recording this book. But it was the only way. I mean, it was Florida and it was summertime, and like my mom would be, I'd just be soaking wet, and she was like, "Oh my gosh!" It's like,
Go jump in the shower, geez.
but yeah, so many adventures. Even the audiobook was an
Even the
adventure.
audiobook. Okay,
So
you're inspiring me. I don't have it. It's not that hot here. It's not Florida. Jesus,
yeah,
I
you
feel
can
really
do
bad
it.
now.
Just
I
get
think I
naked.
can do it. Just get naked. Oh my God, that's amazing. Let's talk a little bit about your coaching practice because I'm
Sure.
very intrigued for, I think my audience on this podcast and my YouTube channel is kind of women in midlife, which you started this whole journey like before, I want to say before midlife. You're still young, but I love the just being bold and brave and reinventing and doing what your heart and your soul is calling you to do. But now you coach people, not just women and not just women in midlife, but people in general on a new journey, what their soul's calling is. Do you want to talk about that? Because I think it's
Yeah,
incredible.
yeah, and I coach all sorts of people and ages, but it's interesting because I for some reason there was this long stint where I coached so many retirees, either people trying to retire but thinking they can't, or somebody that's retired and realized like, what do I do now?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and I've done that, everything from that to young people to people wanting to make career changes. But
Yeah.
it's like I've coached people across the board, but the conversation is so similar. It's in different contexts, but all it is I joke around that I'm a stripper, not a pole dancing kind, but um, but a stripper. So all I do with people is when they come to me, and I tell people this before we start, I'm like, I hope I don't teach you anything. I hope all I do is help you let go of all the beliefs
Yeah.
and the expectations and judgments you have on yourself and other people
Yeah.
in life. And you get to a space to where everything's just simple because that's all that's in our way. We naturally know what we need to know, like I like to say and it's hard to explain what I do, but I take all of our adult knowledge and it's like, yeah, sure, keep that. Like we've been all through a lot, whether we're 30 or we're 80, we've been through life and we all have our knowledge of our own journey. But what's in the way is the societal conditioning and the beliefs and habits we've just picked up by accident. And so when we let go of all that stuff, we can go back to living in this space like you see a small child, like the kind of wonder and curiosity and freedom of a small child, but with all of your adult know-how and knowledge and experience. So it's letting go of all the stuff that's not allowing you to be free and childlike. And so that's what we do. And in a way, that's it. And when we start letting go of all the extracurricular stuff that's holding us back or keeping us thinking we can't do what we want, or you name it, or has us depressed or anxious, you name it. We let go of all that stuff. We're just left in this space of like contentment. And life's still going to happen. You're still going to have periods of time when you're sad and pissed off or you name it. But for the most part, you're just going to be riding the waves of life. And there's this underlying peace and contentment there. And this trust that you can follow those tickles.
That's awesome. And I feel like you, just because of your life set up and how you've become this sort of guru of following your heart and your soul and your journey and living your best self. Like, I feel like that has made you be more open to the things that come in from elsewhere and tickle you. Do you think that people living in a more, they might have sort of breakthroughs after maybe doing some coaching with you, if they're not able to sort of stay in that mindfulness kind of mode all the time. Like I've found meditation helps me, and mindfulness just like get back to being able to be open, because before I was living on such a high level of ridiculously adrenaline infused excited nervous system that I couldn't hear my higher self anymore. I couldn't, it was just like static, and I wonder if like people that you have coached are able to, do they meditate? Do you like sort of encourage people to meditate and be able to calm their minds if they're not able to step out of their stressful life, or they can't just necessarily drop everything. So I'm just curious
Yeah.
how you encourage your coachees to stay tapped in and curious and wonder mindset and
Yeah.
wonder like mindset.
Yeah, no, that's a good question. And the way it looks to me is that peaceful, like being in touch with your knowing is our natural space. Like that's where we naturally,
Should be.
that's when things settle, that's it.
That's
That's
it.
who we are. But there's people that, and I'm raising my hand if you can't see it. There's people at other times in their life, me included, that when I didn't know that, I would get stuck in my head, and I would feel anxious or sad or stressed and couldn't feel the inner knowing. But to me, like, I don't, if meditation works, I don't even like to say the word work. Like, to me, like, if you're meditating to get something out of it, like, there's something more to see, you know? So if you just love the feeling of meditation, like, go for it, But I don't teach meditation. To me, what I help people do is naturally live in a state of meditation. Like, you're not meditating, but you're in that state most of the time. And when you're not, when you're not in tune with your knowing, and you're not in a like content space, you can trust that it's just like if you were to go and stir up a mud puddle and take this jar and scoop up water. And so you got this muddy mud puddle water. What would you do to clean the water? Like, if you wanted clear water again, what would you do to this glass full of muddy water?
I'd have to filter it a lot.
But what if you actually couldn't do anything to the water? What if it was like, okay, you got this jar and that's it. You don't have filters, you don't have anything. Like, what? I would love to see clear water. What can we do?
I don't know.
If you took muddy water and you just set it down,
It'll settle.
and you have like dirt at the bottom and clear at the top, eventually
Really?
it's going to settle. Yeah.
Okay.
And that's how we are. But that's the thing. That's the biggest thing I've learned on this walkabout I've been on, is we keep trying to fix. We have our muddy water, and like, that's our mind.
Yeah.
And we try all these tools and techniques and things to get the water clear. But actually our natural state is clear, and there's not much for us to do. If we just let our awareness, like, we're like, oh, look at me, I'm stressed or I'm anxious or you name it. Like, okay. And then we let the acknowledging the awareness of that space be like, okay, anything I do is more thinking, it's more muddying, it's more shaking up the glass.
Yeah.
So it's not a normal thing that people, it's as normal as anything, but we've been taught that there's stuff we need to do to get to that place. And so to me, that's the biggest thing I do with people, is help them realize there's nothing we need to do, but just to let things settle, and they will.
And do you have like exercises that thought things that you work people through to get them to sort of get into that mindful space while doing other things? Because for me, it's the sitting still and just closing my eyes and just trying to get the monkey thoughts out of my head, because they just won't stop. But so you have exercises and things you kind of.
I don't really, but the thing is I'm like, whatever works for you, do it. Like, if it works, do it. But mine is just deep conversations into like understanding at a deep level who we are, like who we truly are, and how life works. And it's hard because it's a different conversation depending on the person, but it's about the same stuff.
Right.
But that's pretty much it. There's a lot of, like, I'm trying to think of a real life example. Like, if someone is having trouble at work and like say that they feel like they're not being respected or something, I help them just within their self. When you notice that come up and you notice this feeling like, like I want to send a really fiery email right now, like just you're aware of it. What if awareness handled everything? What if that's all you need to do? And we're not saying don't send an email or not. Usually in those cases, it's good to give it a little time, like the glass of water. Even if you write something, don't send it right away. But
Yeah.
the biggest thing is just to be like, okay, I'm aware I'm a little upset right now. And nothing, and there's nothing to do, just like I'm aware, and then you continue on your day. And usually when you kind of just leave it alone, it will take care of itself.
That's very true.
Yeah.
It's very true. I feel like without having done coaching with you, which I'm feeling like I maybe should explore that. I feel like you have such a way, and I want everyone to read your book, and I want everyone to learn from you. It's like, do you do one-on-one coaching and group coaching, but are you going to like try and scale up your coaching to try to sort of touch in with the more of the world?
You know, it's interesting because I don't feel like I don't,
Need
yeah,
to.
no. Like to me, this book, I'm like anybody that reads this book from cover to cover, like something's gonna shift and change within you.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
yeah, like I'm not in like my book is totally about like following where you're drawn, like whatever you want to call that, whether it's in your inner knowing, your heart. Some people will call it the whispers of God. I call it the
Right.
tickles of my soul.
Right.
But my soul is not tickled to scale up my business at all. Like
I
my
just
soul
meant to like to reach more
reach more
people,
people.
because
Yeah,
you only have so many hours in the day, and in your travel journey you only have probably certain buckets of time that you can connect. So it's
yeah,
like I feel like there's more people need to hear from you. So maybe let's
I
get the
know.
podcast going. Like,
Yeah, I know. I hear what you're saying, and I'm just like, yeah, I have this theory. It's a little woo-woo.
that's okay. I'm woo woo. I'm totally woo woo.
So my theory is like we're all this one big spiritual
Yep.
group, right?
Yep.
And if I'm totally chilled out and at peace, like that will do more for the whole soup than
Yeah.
going on a tour like I don't know, one of the people is to go on tours to talk about this stuff. Like my peacefulness will help
Resonate.
resonate with anyone and everyone and people across the world that I don't even know. This is why it's kind of woo woo. And
No, it's not.
and then to me, everyone I touch, like even those two guys on that hike back years ago,
Totally.
like they're in a different space and their peacefulness is rippling out. And
Yeah.
so in a way, I don't even have to coach anyone. I can and I want to, and I want to just, and I don't even need to coach. I can just, I'm in New Hampshire on this lake and I'm meeting all these people and I just go and chill and have conversations and chat. And even that is doing the same thing.
That's everything. That's
Yeah.
everything. And your story about meeting those two guys, that's what we're missing so much in the world today, is just having those real brief connections of authenticity and getting real with each other, and like getting politics aside, getting our differences aside, just that connection. It's like it's so missing in the
Yeah.
world. And I so appreciate your ability to stay in that. You're in that, you live that, and you're, like you say, you're rippling that out with every connection you make with people at the lake, with people you run into, and people you maybe talk to on podcasts. And
Yeah.
I think it's so needed, because I agree. I think it is. I'm a big believer of the woo woo. I think that we are sending out positive ripples of energy into the greater goo, and it will make a difference, because I feel like the darkness has been kind of taking over for a while, because then it's like this ripple effect, and we got to go the other way. So that's
Yeah.
kind of the only reason I brought up, like, can we scale your
I
outreach,
know.
because I want more people to learn. But your book, yeah, we have to get your book out there, because if everybody read your book, that would be a massive shift.
Yeah, and that's the thing is, I'm self-published, and a lot of people are like, for years they've been saying, "Why don't you have a YouTube channel? Why don't you do this?" And I'm just like, because I like my peace, and I don't want to sit around editing videos all day, and I don't want to try
Yeah.
to put a Instagram post every day. I post when
It's a
I'm
lot of
drawn.
work.
Yeah, and it's strange, but I'm like, and that's why, this book has been so important to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's been quite a journey just to get it out.
Yeah.
And I there was grief involved. I was going through grief, and I couldn't get the book out like I wanted it to. And then I had grief over that, and I had to just listen to my own, preaching. And like,
Yeah.
this is the perfect unfolding. Because my mom passed away 30 hours before the book launched.
Oh God.
And so a lot of things I had planned, I just couldn't.
Yeah.
Because if you've read the book, my mom's like my favorite person and my best friend, soulmate, you name it. And so, yeah, so the book launched in January, but I feel like there was a long time I was just like, oh my gosh, I want to get this out. Like, does anybody
Yeah.
know Oprah or Jenna Bush or, I'm like,
Yeah. Get it.
because
Yeah.
I feel like if everyone read this book, it would change so many lives.
Yeah.
And I feel like that instead of being on YouTube for the last 8 years, like I'm putting this book in the world. And one of my favorite, whatever you call it, where people write a review on Amazon, reviews, was a lady. She's a retired school teacher in her 70s. And she said, this should be required reading for all adults. And I was like, oh, like
Yeah.
my heart was just like, oh my gosh, yes. And she's not
Yeah.
even one that likes traveling, and because you don't have to even care. You don't have to like traveling at all to read this book and get something really beautiful from it. So,
Absolutely.
so
Absolutely. And
yeah.
I hope people don't think that it's just a travel
Yeah.
journal, because there's just so much to it. And you're just whole, your personality and your coaching and your just the way that you are really comes across in it. And like, I'm now listening to it. So I started reading it, and then I'm like, oh my God, there's an audiobook. I started listening because I do love listening, especially to the author read their own
Yeah.
words. And yeah, when you start talking about your mom, like your voice cracked, and your relationship, and yeah, it's like, it's really special. And I really hope a lot of people do read the
Yeah.
book. Yeah.
Yeah. And even the mom thing, like I actually started my first book. I put that on pause to write this one because I realized this was timely. But my first book was about me and my mom's journey because we had a rough journey. A lot of people, they see how, especially the last 5 years, how close I've been with my mom. And they don't realize that we had a really rough go from 13 to my mid 30s. And
Right.
to me, even that story, there's so many small stories that are huge. And that one, because I briefly talk about that in the book.
Yeah.
But to me, to me, that one relationship and how close we are, like closer than I could ever imagine being with anyone, like that gives hope to anyone that has any kind of quote broken relationship. Like you could go from that to something beyond your wildest dreams.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you talk about traveling with your mom traveled with you for three
Yeah.
3 months. Was that the longest
Yeah.
period of time?
Yeah. She
That's
traveled quite a bit, but the 3 months was the longest.
that's impressive. Like,
Yeah.
my mom's no longer with me either, but it's like, we couldn't have done more than a couple nights in a hotel room. I think
Yeah.
that would have,
I mean, this is a small space. And it got to the point where we're like taking number twos on the toilet. We're just like, whatever. Hi, what's
whatever.
for dinner? Like, because you're in this tiny little space for 3 months. And yeah, we loved it. I mean,
That's
we've
awesome.
we went on so many journeys, a month here and there, a few weeks here and there, but that 3 month one was really special.
That's impressive. That's like good on your mom too, like doing that with you, because it doesn't maybe not isn't everyone in at older age, like maybe doesn't want to necessarily go, but it's like, my daughter's doing it, so let's go have some fun. That's incredible,
Exactly.
because you can't, yeah, like that, you'll treasure that forever, right? Like
Oh
it's,
man. And so many people got to know her. Like
oh,
even in the Airstream community is pretty tight. And so many people got to know her, and like I just love that. I love that. And then when she passed, there was so much outpouring because, and even on, Facebook and Instagram, because I'd put pictures of our journey and people are just like, oh my gosh, to do that with your mom. So even people that had never met her were so touched by our relationship and her adventurous spirit. And yeah, it was really special.
oh, That's so nice to hear.
Yeah.
I've kept you over an hour already, but I just, in sort of wrapping up our journey here, what are some final words of Kristy wisdom for
Yeah.
for my audience is probably more so women in midlife, kind of the target area. But yeah, just do you have any final thoughts for people wanting to kind of wondering about what's next for them or how to approach like making a
Yeah.
change, a pivot?
Yeah. I think especially on that note, the change, the pivot, what's next is you you already like intrinsically were born with the permission to live the life that's calling. Like that's all there is. So give yourself that gift. Like when you know, even if it makes no logical sense, when you know, like just take one step. A lot of people think, I know, and it looks like a huge jump that's going to take so much. Mine did too, but it just you take one step. You take the very first step, whatever that is.
Yeah.
And then you just trust that you'll know when to take the next. Like so a really it's kind of like the old you nobody'd ever want to eat an elephant, but if you were, you'd eat it one bite at a time. It's like
Right.
that in a different way. But what if here's the question. What if you knew you already had permission to do and live ever how you were drawn? Like if you knew it was all okay, you have permission and it's going to work out, what would you do?
Like that would be such a gift, but I think a lot of people don't realize that, do they?
No.
They
And it
don't.
might seem hard. And it
Yeah.
might seem like you're going to like hurt people's feelings or, like do things that other people won't like. But my theory on when your desire comes from this really clean space, like that you're just like you love life, you love yourself, you love everyone, and you're like, and I still know to do this. Well, it's not an evil idea.
Hmm.
It's you don't know why or how, but the universe, like that that desire you have is coming from the big soup. And that desire takes the whole universe into consideration. Like one quick example, because I know we've gone, but one quick example is that's why my mom and I made up when I was a little kid that she left me. But
Oh,
what actually happened was she was following her heart and she was in love. And he and I didn't get along. And I actually was like, I can't live with this guy. Like,
mm,
either I go or we all go. And it broke her heart, but she was like, okay. And I made up a lot of stuff about that. But when I was older and reflected, I realized I learned so much. Like I would not be the person I am with in the independent, and have the confidence to do the things I do had I not had all those experiences. And
right.
I'm so proud of my mom because she married him and they were the love of each other's lives until he passed in 2020. And I'm so thankful because I learned through her. She knew and she did what she did. And it took me 20 years to realize it, but that was the best thing for all of us.
Mhm.
And I can only guess that was a really hard quote decision, but she followed the desires of her heart.
Right.
And 2 decades later, I was like, oh my gosh, thank you, mom. So what if even the hard decisions, like your pure desires takes everything into consideration?
Absolutely. Yeah. My wish for anyone on a precipice or at a crossroads or just feeling like they're not living their truest self is to quiet the noise and be able to be open to what is coming in, because I feel like a lot of people, some women that I've talked to, it's like, what do you think's next for you? You're getting close to kind of retirement age or what, and they don't even have time to stop and think about it. They're like, I don't know. I got nothing. I'm just like caught in the loop of work and relationship and keeping the house going and the renovations and the this and the that. And it's like how I don't know what to say. It's like how I'm always like, stop. You need to find some time for yourself and you need to, but it's like they don't need to do anything. They need to just be. But yeah, do you find that people that you're working with are just like easily opened up to what might be next for them,
Yeah.
or do you find they have a lot of noise?
Most people have a lot of noise, and I did too. Like and that's why when I work with people, I'm like, don't think of me as some kind of wise sage saint or something. Like, because I was exactly like every person I work with, I'm like, I was right where you were.
Right.
Like, I can relate, and I'm not
Right.
judging.
You're
That's the
bringing your
biggest thing.
experience too. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, I tell everybody, I'm like, you can share anything with me, your deepest, darkest secrets, because I will not judge you. I will not judge you at all. And my hope is that we get to a place where you don't judge yourself,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
most people have so much stuff going on. But sometimes it happens quick. Sometimes it happens in a few days, and sometimes it happens in a month. Or like me, it took almost a year. Like I hired one of the best coaches I could find, and I was almost a year in, like, this isn't working. And then I had the biggest aha of my life. And I saw how things were changing. It just didn't feel like it. It's like watching grass grow. A lot of times with you, if you laid there on the ground, you're like, this stuff ain't
It's
growing,
not happening.
but cut a stripe of lawn and come back in a week and you'll be like, oh, it grew.
So
So
true.
so we judge ourselves like nothing's changing, and we don't realize we're growing,
Right.
we're changing. And so eventually everyone, like I call it pops, everyone eventually was like, oh my gosh, like you get it. And then sometimes you fall back into habits, but you still have the knowing that like that space that you've been to. So yes, most people, including me, like for me, it took almost a year. Like it takes a bit of time. And some people are lucky and it's just like, I'm like, who are you? You're like a genius. Cause that was like a few days. And I think you're smarter than I am now. It just depends. But yeah, for the most part, it takes a little bit because we've been living these conditioned lives, especially, middle-aged women. I'm 47, and that's a lot of experience. And,
Yeah.
so there's a lot of times there's a lot of stuff to let go of. And that's
Oh,
all it is. And the easier we let go of it, the quicker the poof and the pop happens. But some of us hang on for dear life, and I'm over here raising my hand because I did too. But I have complete faith everyone eventually has and we're like, oh my gosh, here I am, here we are, okay, and now let's follow those tickles.
amazing. That is so amazing, Kristy. Just, oh my God, you are such a fount of you are connected to the greater goo. I love
i
it.
love I love being gooey. It's like it's my favorite place to be now, is just all swimming in the goo you know
Swimming in the goo. I love
yeah.
it. Oh my
Well, thank
God.
you so much. This was incredible. Thank you for your curiosity and for your heart and for your wonder. Like, this has been an incredible conversation.
Oh, thank you so much. This is, yeah, I really, really, I admire you, and you're just so inspiring to me. And I will be reaching out to you again, not only to send you the link once it's live. I want to do a bit of editing and, get some good
Yeah.
stuff on there. But yeah, I definitely want to connect with you again because I think you're absolutely incredible. And I could definitely use a bit of, maybe it's a little bit of coaching.
I'm here and open. It'll be fun. And you
Awesome.
know what? Like, near the end of the book, what's fun is you get to see me lose my ever loving SHIT because I get in my head. And that's what I love about the book as well, is because I take you on the journey of me being so stuck in my beliefs. And so everyone can see it doesn't matter how long your wander is or how deep your walkabout has been. Like, we all go through stuff when we forget. And that was important for me to put in the book, was to let every people be on the journey with me when I forget. And I
Yeah.
had a big belief that I didn't know I had stuck in my way, because it happens to all of us and it'll continue happening the rest of our lives. It's
Yeah.
just that once we've seen the truth, like, there's a chance that, we'll realize we have this crazy belief and come and get back in the goo again. That's it. So yeah.
Amazing. Well, I appreciate you, and I just wish you the most success and love and just openness on your Coddiwompling journey. And yeah, we will connect again soon.
Sounds good. Thank you again. This was awesome.
Thank you for coming. Thank you so much to Kristy for such a great conversation. I really enjoyed chatting with her, and I have a feeling we'll be chatting again. Kristy's got a website. You can find her at perfectunfolding.com, and her book is available on all the many websites and ways to get books, and it's available in paperback and audiobook, which she reads herself, and download for Kindle. So I highly encourage people to read her book, and I will also put a link in the description for you to go check it out. So thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you've had just as much fun as I have, and carry on. We're going to ignite our second act together. See you next time.